Good. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to GatherRound's first special edition roundtable for summer 2023. We're so thrilled that you're here with us today. My name is Sarah Koffler, and I am a co-founder of GatherRound Consulting, along with my amazing partner, Kathy Pomer. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And for those participating using audio only, or for anyone for whom a physical description would be helpful, I am a white cisgender female in my mid-30s. I have brown wavy hair, brown eyes, and I'm wearing a gray top. And I'm joining you from my home in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, which is the traditional territory of the Munsee Lenape tribe. Today's session is being recorded, and we encourage all who are comfortable to leave your camera on or turn your camera on and be active participants so we can feel as though we're all together today. And we also want you to know that we've enabled closed captioning, and you have the option to turn it on or off using the button on the bottom of your toolbar. Today's session is all about how technology can make our work in early childhood easier and more efficient. For me, early childhood and technology are words that haven't always totally gone together in the same sentence. I remember my very first teaching job, and when I saw my pre-K classroom for the first time, I was so curious about why there was a computer in the classroom and what role I as an educator would play in that. Over time, I came to appreciate using technology for research with my students, whether it was wondering about questions like, where are starfruits grown and do giraffes sleep standing up? Or watching momentous video clips, such as presidential election results, or equally as important perhaps, did the groundhog see his shadow? And while technology evolves faster than we can all keep up, it's become even that much more relevant in these past few years as we come through the pandemic. It's how we stayed connected, how we learned together, and how we shared experiences. For me, I never would have thought a wine tasting event or a birthday party or even a Passover Seder could happen without being in the same room as others. But through the wonders of technology, we know it's not only possible, but truly miraculous. Our worlds have changed, and we also need to, and we get to keep up with it and allow our lives to be enhanced by all of that. And Kathy, tell us more about that. I think you have some stories to share too.
Well, I think this is such a wonderful opportunity for us to be together thinking about these things. And I think when I think of technology and also with the systems that have to do with early childhood, I think about myself and many of my colleagues who've always said, I just really enjoy working with children. I feel that that's where my passion is. I even might love, partnering with parents and understanding what it's like to be with families, but don't get me with a budget and don't give me paperwork. And all of those other things just take up so much time. And I think what's really important is if we are going to be the advocates for early childhood that we all want to be, we cannot hand over the power that comes with those systems. And if there is somebody amazing like Daniel and a group that's amazing like Playground that can really help us get our business in order, it's not only helpful and nice and wonderful of you all to do that, it is vital for us to remain in charge of what is happening in early childhood. I was lucky enough and with some of you to go to the public policy forum that the NAAYC had in DC in February. And I remember when Lauren Hogan came and said, you're going to go up on Capitol Hill and a lot of these folks are going to enrage you as they say something like, we'd give you more money in early childhood if you could just get your business in order, little lady, and they'll pat you on the head like Cindy Lou Who, and your head will explode because you will be so infuriated. And she said, we're going to need to learn to talk to some of these people about what that means and how to get our house in order. But I'll also tell you, now that we're just family, she said, we should also be getting our houses in order. We should also be having more efficient systems. We should be having communication systems that really help us build community, and only then will we have the power to grow ourselves going forward. So we could think of no better way to kick off our series of the summer, and maybe even a small series this fall with Daniel. And I will give you a small bio of this wonderful professional that we are learning so much from and that we are about to learn so much from. Daniel Andrews is the founder and CEO of Playground. He started Playground to help his family manage their preschools. His mom, some of us know already, Tamari Andrews, is a preschool director and a professor of early childhood education. And his aunt, his grandma, his sister, and cousins all work in childcare. Clearly, you have been raised by the best, Daniel. We're so happy to hear of this incredible ancestry that you have. He is also on 2022 Forbes 30 Under 30 and is currently working with several states to help build more robust childcare businesses. The time is now to learn from you, Daniel. Thank you so much for being with us today, and please take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm Daniel. Thank you. That introduction was fantastic. Covered pretty much everything. Just a few add-ons there as well. So founder at Playground, we're a software company to manage childcare businesses. We're an app and a website. But my entire family, the whole background, thank you again, was that my family is childcare owners, childcare operators. They work in childcare. To add a little bit of highlight here as well, my mom is professor of early childhood education. She's helped build out a bunch of different state curriculums. She's helped build out like STEM carts and incorporating more technology into early childhood education, in addition to running a large center. And so she's been one of my main role models and influences in most of my endeavors here in trying to work in early childhood education. And one thing that I've always helped her with is technology. She's not as native to technology as I am. My background is studying electrical engineering and computer science at UC Berkeley, and really diving in deep in all the different ways that technology can help improve the operations and efficiency in early childhood education. So I have a little presentation today to kind of walk through some of this. There'll be an interactive demo towards the latter half of it, but kind of walk through some of the experiences I had with my family and how tech has helped enable them to operate more efficiently and kind of get more out of their existing work. So here's our slideshow. So the first one is one that's near and dear to me. It's Instacart. So as a child, I would drive with my mom to the grocery store every morning around 7 o'clock in the morning. We'd go to the store, she'd have one huge cart and I'd have another huge cart. And we would just load up fruits, vegetables, cereals, snacks, all the different components for a healthy and nutritious snack and lunch. And we would then go through the cart, we'd pay for those groceries, put them in her car, and her car would start to smell, especially during the summer in Los Angeles. We would end up having, fruits and vegetables sitting in the car for 20, 30 minutes as it started heating up. And one of my childhood memories is, going on play dates and all my friends saying about how bad the car smelled because we had to collect all these different groceries. But the main thing here is, every morning she'd wake up an hour earlier than she normally would to go collect those groceries, bring them to work, and then organize it all within the kitchen in order for her teachers and staff to come and set up snack and lunch for their classrooms. One piece of technology that you're maybe already using is Instacart in order to get those groceries delivered to you. She's now saving an hour or two every single day. She doesn't have to run between different grocery stores if they're missing certain items. She's not constantly checking inventory to see what's going on. She essentially has her own personal shoppers that will go and pick up these groceries for her. And at this point, she's been using them for long enough that they know her personally. And so they know that if this cereal is not in stock, that this cereal will actually make a great substitute. Or they'll say oh, we brought you a ton of bananas yesterday. Maybe we don't need those as much, or let's switch them over to strawberries. I think we should try to change up your schedule a little bit as well. And so they've essentially turned into her partner in crime when it comes to setting up these fantastic lunches for these schools, for her school. And she actually is a big proponent of them as well. They have a bunch of great promo offerings. It is an additional charge, right? There is some expense to this technology. However, she ends up saving so much more in time by, spending that time instead working with staff, working with families, and helping on enrollment. And so she more than makes up for it by, saving her time here. The next technology we like to talk about is Keezy. Mostly this is just a door lock software. There's a bunch of different options in the marketplace, and you should find one that works well for you. But she has 400 students at her center. Even centers with fewer children are still managing the hecticness that is pick up and drop off every morning and afternoon. You have hundreds of parents or tens of parents who are coming, dropping off their kids. You want to make sure that they're the correct family who's picking up the kids as well, that they are not some stranger. And oftentimes, as you start growing and have a bigger business, you don't necessarily know every single mom, dad, nanny, or whoever else is picking up or dropping off. And so something like a door lock system enables you to give access just for the summer, or just for the week, or just for the day for that drop-in care. And it makes it significantly easier to manage access to your building and to your facility and to stay in compliance, truthfully. And this way, you also get a log of who's entered and exited and when. Also, a lot of childcare management softwares, which maybe some of you are using today, will integrate with these as well. And so during that time of pickup or drop off, you'll be able to record that attendance from that specific parent as they're opening and closing that door. So it could be something like open the door and then a signature screen pops up for them to record attendance. And this is a significant lift, especially for that pickup and drop off experience, and tends to delight families also, that they kind of know that their building is safe and secure, and that there's not, duplicate keys running around, or they have to call in every time they want to walk in if there's not somebody present to let them in. One other thing to note, some of these door lock systems also even have facial recognition, and you can have access control based on the faces as well. Cool. Next, I know this is an oldie, but it's a good one. So Spotify is huge. Being able to play music that you actually enjoy in the classroom, making sure that it is appropriate, age appropriate. That way you can listen to some of the songs or music that you want to listen to. If you type in like preschool or childcare snack time music or nap time music or playtime music, you'll get a whole list of songs and music that you're probably familiar with as well, and you'll enjoy too, in addition to just the families. So this is truthfully one of the biggest lifts for like staff morale too, that they have like access music. They don't need to have a boombox with all of the different things, with CDs that they swap out and trade back and forth. You have access to unlimited different music here directly through Spotify, and the subscription is fairly cheap as well. One side note is you can even go on the family plan. It makes it a little bit cheaper too if you're purchasing this for your staff. But this is one of the best things, especially when I was a summer camp counselor. We would always play a lot more fun music that we would like, and the kids ended up liking it more as well. All right, now to go to some of that like cutting edge technology piece. Hopefully by now, most of you guys have heard of OpenAI or ChatGPT. I'm not sure that as many people have actually gone and played around with it. This is pretty brand new. Within the last 12 months, we started seeing this kind of taking over. We see it revolutionizing entire industries. And some people might have seen it in the news, but not have played around with it or seen that it's like going to take a bunch of the jobs. But I don't think that's necessarily the case at the moment. However, there are a lot of ways that you can get value out of this really quickly for your own center or for your childcare. So this is ChatGPT. You can just go to openai.com. I'll send resources later and you can get a quick link to go here. But you can essentially talk to it like your own assistant, like as if you had another full-time employee who's helping you manage these different aspects of your childcare. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is like lesson plans. So let's say write a lesson plan on the ocean for a preschool classroom with 3-year-olds. And so we're essentially asking for, we're just asking it, like if I was going to tell an assistant what I want done. And it's a lesson plan for a 3-year-old, for a classroom of 3-year-olds. And you'll see very quickly, it'll just start building this for you. It's kind of crazy, especially the first time when you start playing around with it and seeing how it works. But you see it gives you an objective, it gives you different activities to do here. So we see materials as well. So you can even create shopping lists for your lesson plans and curriculum directly with ChatGPT. So picture books, tell sea animals, blue fabric or paper, ocean themed songs or music, Spotify again. And then it will actually give you the lesson plan itself. So an intro, for example, getting the children together in a circle on the carpet, showing them pictures of the ocean, ask the children if they know what that is. One thing to note is that this isn't always 100% accurate or perfect, but it's really good as a starting point. Instead of staring at a blank canvas to build out your curriculum, you can start with ChatGPT and start modifying it. Maybe you don't necessarily have toy sea animals, but you can start replacing those with cutouts or something else. And I'll show you how you can even modify this to get there too. But then, it gives you activities, it gives you a bunch of different things that you can do here, a conclusion and an extension if you have more time. And this kind of starts setting the basis for your lesson plans, curriculum, and activities. So great, this is pretty cool just off the beginning. You might want to be able to, share this with families and let them ask follow-up questions to their students at home. So you could say, write 4 follow-up questions parents can ask their students about these activities at home. And you'll see immediately it'll come up with different questions that you can use. So for example, can you show me the ocean creature craft you made in class today? What materials did you use? And what colors did you choose from the ocean creatures? And so this way you can start building in engagement directly using this, and it'll prompt you and it'll start giving you a base in which to work with. And you can start, aligning those with the standards of the curriculum or early learning framework that you're operating within. I kind of want to open it up. I can keep prompting this for a while, but are there any questions like you guys want to ask this and kind of see how it goes and we can go through it together? If not, I'm also,
It's so important to open up. I know just, I'd love to hear from people because I think this is so mind-blowing, Daniel, what you've offered here. What are people thinking about this? You can just go off mute.
while people are thinking of questions, I'll follow up
That's,
with, oh, sorry.
I have a quick question. That's really cool. I've never seen that before, but I guess just because in early childhood, it's so regulated through licensing and through the quality rating improvement system, if you're doing Head Start, early Head Start, everything is so standardized and you have to use XYZ, creative curriculum, all that. Like, how would that work? I guess is my question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing to note is this isn't always the best tool for like copy pasting and just directly using. It's really good for ideation and helping you kind of go back and forth and creating like a framework. You can't actually include some of that though. So what's like the example framework that you're talking about?
Well, like things that are related to a quality rating improvement system.
Like QRA, maybe it might know QRAS, or it might
Yeah,
know, it might know Head Start, or even just try creative curriculum. I'm curious because I think it's creative curriculum is something that we're all, a lot of us are very interested in aligning with. I'm wondering whether it, well, there you go.
So again, it might not be 100% accurate, but it's a great base on which to start. And this is just for lesson plans, right? I'll show a few other examples for different ways that you can use this too, that aren't necessarily lesson plan based. But you could start saying like, okay, learning through play. And then you could start kind of coming up with ideas on how this relates back to the creative curriculum.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. So Judy, to your question, I think that what happens is when we all get stuck, or when we're starting from nothing, or when nobody really knows where to begin, and we're also over busy that there isn't even a chance to kind of begin, where do we start the conversation? This at least has some prompts that even using the creative curriculum tool itself, the book, any of the prompts, wouldn't come as quickly and might help us feel a little bit more forward momentum in a time that feels useful when we're sort of not having enough hours in the day. I find it both thrilling and terrifying. But you're right, Daniel, that it's a way to really integrate all that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it might actually give you even like how does this align with specific standards? And it might work sometimes. Truthfully, it's not like perfect, but it's worth the shot sometimes, because sometimes it'll just do some of that heavy lifting for you in terms of just associating the two between them rather than having to go everything. It seems like maybe not perfect in this case, but in other cases it might be able to, if that it kind of helps there.
I think this is so interesting that it pulled in pieces from NAEYC, which I know many of us are either in schools that are accredited or inspired by the work of NAEYC. And also I saw some pieces from Common Core on here. So I think, I know, Kathy, you and I have had fun and fear playing around with this and asking some really interesting questions and trying to stump or challenge ChatGPT, and being so in awe of some of the responses and inspiration, as you had said, Daniel, and I kept this in mind as we were playing around with this during one of our earlier conversations, that it's less about what can I take that I can copy and paste, but really helping to spark ideas in a different way than we might have considered before, that we weren't even thinking in that direction yet, that has just expanded our thinking in really tremendous ways.
I completely agree. One example of like cool things that you could do with this, though, is like I only have markers and paper. Let's say you don't want to go purchase new supplies. Like you could start seeing that it comes up with ideas also in terms of things that you can do here. And so this is also very useful in that regard too. Another way is like, if you have like a newsletter with families and maybe you're not using it to develop curriculum, but you're using it to communicate with families about the curriculum, you could say like, write a 3-paragraph newsletter to families about these activities. And so something like this is just an easy way to create a base on which to start communicating with families. Again, it's not perfect. It might not be in your style or your branding or your type of way that you like to communicate with families. You can continue to prompt it and change it, but you'll see it gives you a pretty good base in which to, send out these newsletters or communication. You could say like, turn the letter into a poem, and it will even do something like that if you want to be like cute in that regard as well. So like, dear families, we gather near to share the wonders we hold dear, our preschool with hearts afloat, delve into the ocean note by note. And so like, maybe it's not the best poetry ever, but it's still kind of unique that you're able to, change these and prompt it in a way that you can start using it in that regard, if that makes sense.
I think what's so interesting is that Sarah and I had an opportunity last week to be with a pretty large city group of family educators and family engagement specialists. And they were spending so much time trying to think about, what does it mean to be a family engagement? What do I mean by that? And at some point, because Daniel taught us how, we went right into the account and figured out how to play with it. We wrote it up on the screen. And I think there was sort of a mix of humility that we're each trying to start from our own brains and rattle around the snow globe there and figure out sort of what comes out next. And what a prompt like this could do to help us think about things we wouldn't have even thought of on our own. And I think what's so important is that we can't let go of the relational human element. We certainly need to make sure it matches our culture, matches our voice, matches something that we would say. But in a time when we're trying to really keep up with so much information out there and give everybody what they need, it's a tool that I can't believe it, Daniel. When you showed it to us, it just really, it changed. I almost feel guilty. I have this place of going back into it to see what it would say, but it's always a great place to start because it begins to make me think about where I should start my research and not necessarily, I'm going to sign my name to the bottom and hand it out. But it's mind blowing. It's really mind blowing.
I'm going to show like one more cool example just to show that it doesn't necessarily just do lesson plans, it does pretty much everything. One example would be like, write an outline for a parent handbook. That's a question that we get a lot, is help with parent handbooks for a preschool. And so, this obviously can add a lot more information. You could put like a few paragraphs and stuff, but here you could start seeing like the overview of what your parent handbook should potentially look like. And then, maybe for parts of this, it's like illness policies and procedures, right? So I could say like, I could copy this and I could say expand or write the section on this, whatever. I just copy paste it in and it will start already writing in some of this information. Again, not necessarily to copy and paste. You want to make sure you're compliant, and this doesn't guarantee compliance. However, it's a great base in order in which to like kind of start using it to build out. Maybe you're having some difficulty with certain sections of parent handbook and you want some ideas. Maybe you just want to make sure that you're exhausted and you want to see like if this comes up with ideas that you might have missed. For example, health and hygiene practices. Maybe you didn't incorporate that specific practice within your handbook. And so you could start doing things like this. Also, it's kind of cool. It makes you on blog posts if you want to like essentially read content on certain aspects. So it's like, give me 5 short ideas on how to increase enrollment at my preschool. And so you could do things like this as well to come up with like marketing ideas if you're trying to give empty spots and you want to start filling them. And so one idea, open events, referral incentives, online presence in social media, collaborate with community partners. And so those are like, these are great ways, and you can continue prompting it back and forth and essentially just have a conversation with it to explore what those ideas look like and continue to see how that could be useful. Not that it's a source of truth, not that it's like amazing at it, at like the best ideas ever. However, it's a great source, and I think it's a tool in the tool belt.
Daniel, I want to add one more thing, just because I really can't stop talking about this apparently, but another area that it really made me think about is how many directors we have that are all the time going through assessments and evaluations for children and rewriting them with teachers who have written them for the first go round. I think about educators for whom English isn't their first language. I think about people who've not been used to writing professional documents before about children, just in some way, exactly, translating it into whatever language we need to translate it. If somebody could write it in their own language and then we would translate it back into English. I feel like there are things that are really amazing. And I also think that it really feels as if we are able to have more relationships because we're relying on this tool. It's not that we're getting rid of the relationships and only relying on this tool. So I hope that that's something that's coming across to everybody. I'm definitely seeing some positive vibes in the chat for sure.
I have a curious question. Thank you. I have never seen this in process and it blows my mind. It also scares me a little bit. I'm curious to know if you, Daniel, know of any movement to for people who use these tools and then go forward to publish things and actually use the language that it's given them, or use the language to help them and then publish things. Is there any movement towards a clause that says this document was created with the help of OpenAI? Like, is there any honor given to that space in the world?
I build childcare or preschool software. I don't know so much about the rest of those like politics and policies there, but I don't want to like misspeak around that. There are a lot of concerns. I mean, it is crazy how powerful this is. It is a little bit scary. I agree with you. The first time when this like was first released and I was playing around with it, I just kept like whispering to myself like, oh my God, oh my God. It's pretty revolutionary. It does the job really well to a point that is, you know, frankly frightening, like you're saying. But it is still a tool and it's still a very useful tool. I don't know anything about the publishing aspect. But
Thank you.
one thing I advocate for very heavily is not to copy and paste from this, but to rather use it as a resource as you do your own work. Look, it's decent. It passes. Like you think you may not be able to distinguish it from a human. It doesn't mean that it does it super well. It doesn't mean that it's like very high quality. And so your own knowledge and expertise in the industry will definitely be more important than something that's just like pumped out by this screen. And so I just really want to emphasize it's like a tool, it's a base, it's not necessarily something you should be copying and pasting from. You should make sure to audit it, add it in your own information. However, it is a very powerful tool and it's something that is definitely useful. Cool. Any other ChatGPT questions? Otherwise, I'll hop into the playground piece as well. Cool. So I have to mention Playground. We are specifically a technology tool for childcare educators, childcare administrators, help manage their day-to-day within Playground. So I'll show you guys like a few different things that we help with in terms of automations. One thing I will note very funnily is we just put that ChatGPT stuff directly into here as well. So like write one line about childcare being fun. I don't know. It's not as great of an interface, and I recommend using ChatGPT, but you're able to actually use this language model directly within Playground as well. In case you don't want to go back and forth between tabs, or you just have a quick question, you can put it in here and put it in. We recognize the power, and we just want to kind of democratize access to it as well. So it's not just like a who heard about it. We just want to make sure that everyone kind of has access to the same tools, that nobody's left behind here. Especially, we want childcare to take advantage of it just because it is so available, and we want to make sure that they have access to the same technology and tools as the other industries do. But yeah, so Playground, we have a lot of different functionalities specifically built out for childcare. The things I'm going to show today first is enrollment. We hear from a lot of providers that we work with that enrollment is a very touchy subject. A lot of families want access, not everyone knows how to apply. You have to collect a whole bunch of paperwork. You have to set up all the billing and automations. There's a whole communication aspect where you don't necessarily have all of their information because they haven't yet started at your school. And so our goal with Playground is to try to make it as easy as possible for you to manage your enrollment and collect all that information while you go through. So here's an example of a school with enrollment. They have a full-time program, they have re-enrollment, they have maybe a summer program as well, and you can create these different listings that people can apply into. So let's hop into like the full-time program. You'll see that, someone's already playing around with it. But you'll see that you have like the list of students who've applied, who's waitlisted, who's accepted, and it's really easy to start tracking your enrollment and be able to see clearly what stage every family's at. And so you can move students up and down, you can move them into waitlisted, you can go and accept students, you can go, change the order on the wait list, whatever you need to do there. And then, there's a bunch of other stuff. I'll show you kind of what it looks like for the parents who might sometimes have like an unclear path towards enrolling at your school. So this is hopefully makes it really easy. We have this landing page that we give to you. It's like a dedicated page for you to link on your social medias or on your website if you already have one, or you could skip it, and it kind of explains the enrollment. You can explain about the program, you can give contact information so families can contact you very easily. You're able to add more information about your center. And families here can kind of explore and learn more. If they're ready to apply or register, they have this button. And here's the key thing, they create an account so you have an easy way to communicate with them. And that way, all of their information is stored within Playground, and so you can easily access it. So that way, like if somebody applied 6 months before school started, you still have access to all their information, all their contact info. You can call them, follow up, and see everything else in there as you go along. Once people do that, they're able to select between a bunch of plans to apply from. So if you have a full-time program, a part-time program, if you have different prices based on 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, if you have subsidized care, you're able to record all of that information in here, and families can start self-electing for plans that they want to register for. So I'll select full-time here. Then we have like the information capture. So, you know, if you have criteria for accepting students, or you have different demographic information you collect or information for licensing, you can collect all of that directly through Playground. I have a little fill out button for me for the demo, but in general, they'll enter in all the information. And then here, the big thing is we collect payment information from these families at the time of enrollment. So even on that first day of school, when you're starting to build families, you already have at least one way to build families, and you don't have to chase down every single parent to collect a bank account information or credit card information or some way to pay. And then once they apply, they'll end up on this applied column. You know, let's say it'll send them out an email. You can completely customize this too. So in the service of professionalizing the service of childcare, you're able to, we have a default one, but you can delete our logo, throw in your logo if you have one. You can go and change the text. You can go and change the colors, bold, highlight, all this other stuff as well, in order to create that custom communication with your families as they're applying to your school. So we can save that. And we now have a custom email that goes out to families, and it'll customize it with their name, their student's name, and all that information. And then the other big piece too is during when you're going to accept them, you're able to set up the billing for the entire school year all at once directly through Playground as well. So they've applied, they've entered in all their information, they've selected what plans they want, for example, full-time plan, part-time plan, maybe you want to change that here. You can select which classroom, and then based on capacities, tell them if you have space or not. And then here it'll set up their billing. For example, here it's $450 per month for this care that will automatically start charging on the first day of school on August 15th. It'll be invoiced, and it'll be due the first invoice day. You can add comments, notes, all these other things as well. And so you're able to, you know, track stuff like family is very interested. And, you know, you can kind of record all those notes and come back to it even months or years later. But yeah, so that's kind of how the enrollment piece works on that aspect. Are there any questions on that at the moment in terms of like being able to automate that enrollment, just let parents apply and just enter in their information themselves? Cool. Feel free to interrupt at any point. The other piece of enrollment that we include, and I didn't show here, is paperwork. And so you're able to set up, like, upload all of your own documents as well for that. Oh, I got a question on tour signups. You can do tour signups through that. You just create another listing for tours, and families can enter in there when they want to come visit, or you can set up dates of availability for tours as well. But here, I'll show you kind of like what the documents look like. So this is paperwork aspect of this. So this is a California licensing form. I'm originally from California, but we have all the different states. You can also upload your own forms or contracts. If you ever use DocuSign, it's very similar. So you're able to set up your form, you're able to add in text, you're able to add in like a signature, all this other types of things. The other thing, like here's another technology automation. You know, if you have 20-page packet that families have to fill out for every first day of school, they're entering in the same information over and over again. So for example, for the child's first name, we have it automatically linked to the student's first name. And when a family goes and fills out the paperwork, it's already going to fill out the student's first name and last name and whatever other information we already have in here. And so between year to year, it'll autocomplete, and that they only have to enter in each piece of information once. You can also collect signatures and do all of that. You can go and print out the documents as well if you need to. And then we also have validation to make sure that they're filling in every single form. But you're able to put in like all of this directly here.
Daniel, I just have to say that my mind is just going to be blown this entire session, because how many years has each of us be, I know as a parent I did this. I know in all the preschools I worked in, things were on paper that you had to rewrite them over and over again. People have fought being digital about this kind of thing, and for this just. Imagine how much faster this paperwork section would make our lives, how much more streamlined if this was the kind of thing that we were all using. This is really wonderful.
Thank you. Amazing. So those are like for the PDFs. Also, there's those forms as well that you can kind of customize as well. So if you're collecting like enrollment information, you can create these forms, you can add different stuff. For example, for marketing purposes, you can figure out where people heard about you. So that way you can kind of maybe double down on some of those channels that are working well. If you have demographic information you need to collect in order to get grants or funding, you're able to collect that here as well. Again, everything's linkable, so that way you're able to record that information. And then families will see this over here where they can go and fill it out. And then each student has their own paperwork section where you can see what forms they've completed or have not completed. So that way you can see very quickly which families still have paperwork to complete or not. Hopefully they all filled it out during enrollment, but maybe you added a form or document later and they can come in and go fill that out directly in there.
There's a question here for in the chat. Do you have to assign the paperwork to an enrolling family? I mean, just saying you do have to assign the paperwork to an enrolling family. Every family who applies is not able to see the paperwork, correct?
Yeah, there's visibility settings for all of this. So all of it's very configurable. So you can, oops, this is the wrong page. It's share settings. And you could say either everyone fills this out or a specific group fills it out. For example, you might just say like specifically for the enrollment listings, they fill it out. So actually it's done through enrollment. But yeah, you essentially assign this as only visible to families who enrolled. And so you're able to completely customize all aspects of that. And I'll show you what that looks like here. This is how you build your dedicated page. This is how you set your pricing. It's going to run through this. This is how you can let families also sign up for additional programs like soccer or lunch or after school program. And then also here you can like figure out what documents or paperwork is required to be completed as part of this listing. And so every family who fills it out, they'll show up as, well, I just added the documents, so it's not going to show on this, but you'll be able to see really quickly who's completed their documents and who has not for that listing. But yeah, in this case, for example, these families would have to come back in. It would be a little pop-up on their screen letting them know that they, or an email, letting them know that they have new paperwork to fill out. Cool. In interest of time, we have a bunch of stuff, but in interest of time, I'm going to show you like one or two other cool things that we do. We do a lot around food program, around lesson planning, around scheduling, around all those different aspects. But one thing we've heard, especially for some of the smaller centers that don't have like fixed communication in place, is that it's sometimes really difficult to let people know about emergencies or like to notify families quickly. So for example, you could say like through our post feature, you're able to send out text message, emails, push notifications, whatever you need to do in terms of an emergency. Also during normal communication, you could send out announcements or anything else at 2 p.m. And so like you could say emergency pickup at 2 p.m. You could select all students, or maybe it's just like a specific program like the after school care that you want to go and communicate with. You can go add attachments, photos, videos, maybe take a picture, hopefully not a picture of like smoke coming out of the kitchen. You can schedule these posts if you'd like as well. And then you can send app notifications, emails, text messages. My mom used to be individually calling each family when emergencies happened, and that was not sustainable. It took a lot. And the families didn't feel safe that they would get notified in time because of how many families there were. And so this is a really quick way to kind of notify everybody, or even just for general announcements or days off or reminders. The other thing we heard was that for communication, sometimes it's, sometimes you want to be able to just send messages, photos, videos back and forth to families. So for example, let's say Jenny Lee, her parents haven't picked her up yet. It's been 20 minutes already and you need to contact them. You can't find their contact information. You can just start a chat with them and say, hey, who is picking up Jenny today? And you can just quickly start a group chat, and this will start a group chat with all their primary guardians. So maybe it's mom and dad, maybe it includes a guardian, another guardian, or whoever else. That can all be done in there. Yeah. Cool. So that's a communication piece. So you guys enrollment, which includes the billing, sets up all the billing. They have auto pay on, so they're able to pay for everything just automatically. You don't have to chase down payments. The paperwork piece as well for all the packets, and then communication, the feed, chat, all that. One other thing I'm going to share, oops, didn't mean to end that. One other thing I'm going to share, we do a lot more, and happy to talk about that after, but one thing that we also do that I think is kind of unique to us is we actually give you business credit cards. So you can open up a business credit card through Playground and track all of your expenses. For family childcare, very useful to separate your business expenses from your personal expenses, so that way you can get those tax refunds. For center-based, it might be useful to give budgets for each classroom or each staff member. So like my mom's school, for example, gives each classroom like a certain amount of money each year, and they have a card and they have discretion to spend it how they want. And they just directly upload receipts through Playground in order to track all of that spend for spend management. And they know how much money is essentially going through that. Cool. Anyways, thank you so much. I appreciate this. This is kind of my overview. There's 2 links here I'm going to share if you want to like scan with QR code or whatever, but we can also share them afterwards. So one on the left is the ChatGPT childcare prompts. So if you want to go through some of the prompts that we've created that kind of can showcase how you can use ChatGPT in your childcare business, it's available to you. And then second, if you want to learn more about Playground, there's a QR code on the right, and we can connect you with somebody from our team who can walk you through the system and kind of share more about it. Cool. I'll leave these up. Otherwise, that's pretty much my entire thing. Happy to answer questions, or I'll hand it back over to Kathy and Sarah.
That was remarkable, Daniel. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think you have inspired all of us in so many different ways, and I'm curious and want to open it up to any further questions that people might have, whether it's about Playground itself, about ChatGPT, about technology in general, all that Daniel covered today. Any questions, thoughts, wonderings you all have?
I have a question for you, Daniel. I know there's a lot of tech companies out there in this space, especially shelf products, some that have been around for like 50 years, like ProCare. How are you coming to the market differently than that?
Great question. My mom was a ProCare customer for 20 years, so I have heard that a bunch. Yeah, I think there's a few aspects that we really shine on, and truthfully, there are some aspects that ProCare shines on. Our main selling point at this point in time right now is just really that we have a very modern look and feel. It's a very easy system to use, especially with high staff turnover rates, which is like a sad reality of the industry. ProCare we've found to be a somewhat difficult system to learn and adopt to. Playground for both staff, families, administrators find Playground to be exceptionally easy to get acquainted with and start using. Some of the like other pieces that we really highlight feature-wise, one is our enrollment and paperwork functionality, I believe are unique to us, as well as our expense tracking in those credit cards. We like to think that our entire system is very easy to use. And so what we find from people who are switching from ProCare to Playground is that they'll end up using a huge percentage of Playground, even if ProCare offered some of those features previously. So like our scheduling piece, ProCare might do some scheduling, but we find that with Playground, people actually do use it because it's set up automatically. And you have a much deeper understanding of who's coming, when they're coming, what your staffing ratios need to look like throughout the day or throughout weeks or months in the future, as well as what your capacity is to accept new families because we have all the information already set up. One thing I will say too, we're like a smaller, newer company, and we have spent a lot of time on customer support, walking through everyone through setting up, getting acquainted. We do onboardings and demos with administrators, with families, with staff. And we have like a whole bunch of resources online that, you know, videos, photos, walkthroughs and everything for all aspects of the software. Long answer, but hopefully that kind of gave you a little bit of a picture.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thoughts, comments? Well, Daniel, I know you shared your information on that last slide, but maybe if you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat box as well, just so people can get in touch with you for more questions that might come up as time goes on. And thank you so much for being here to share this with us. As Kathy and I reflected on all that you have done with your company and all that you have showed us with technology in general in the early childhood space has truly been so inspirational to us. So thank you for coming to share it with all of us today. Just want to mention some of the other up and coming events that are happening for us here at GatherRound. As we mentioned when we started today, this is our first of 3 signature roundtable opportunities this summer. On July 19th, we will have a session discussion with 3 wonderful early childhood directors in the field who will be talking a little bit more about compensation and about how we can elevate the entire field of early childhood at our own centers by being advocates, by stepping up, by speaking out for our educators and for ourselves. And on August 16th, we will be joined by Lucy Rescio, who is on the team at NAUIC, and she'll be talking about, I know, very exciting, right? She'll be talking about recruitment and retention and right-sizing our programs. I will take a moment and put the links to both of those in the chat. So you are welcome to sign up for both of those. And we'd love to stay connected with all of you. We know we see some familiar faces and some new faces here today, and we're thrilled to be connected with all of you and to share our journeys together. Let me just grab this up.
I also, while you're putting that in, because I don't know how you're talking and putting things in the chat at the same time, but I will also say that we've had a lot of interest in folks out there that might want to be part of a regular group that maybe meets over a few months to sort of think about efficiency and thinks about putting these things together. And we do have a meeting coming up in a few weeks with Daniel to think about a cohort that would be thinking about accountability, technological advancements and helping us really move forward to do the things we love to do more and to do the things we have to do better. And I really feel like there's an awful lot of people that might be interested in a group like that. Please feel free to reach out to us now or later. And we're just so happy that you found us here at this roundtable, hoping that you'll come to more in the future and hoping that you know that if you have any questions at all, that's what we're here for. Anybody, I heard from someone that might have a question you wanted for Daniel, but I want to make sure that you all have the time you need if you would like to ask something. Any last questions? You know where to find him, just in case you don't. I think that's it. Sarah, thanks.
Thank you all so much. Wonderful to see you and be with you all. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take good care and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.